Welcome everyone to the channel. My name is Jake and I'm glad that you're able to join me. Now today in this video, what we're going to cover is, why it is that you may be feeling tired or stressed or overwhelmed or burnt out, even if maybe you're not being overworked. And the spoiler to this, just to jump ahead, is there's this hidden cost of staying small in what you're doing. Now, to explain that better, let me ask you something that just might really hit close home to you. It did for me when I first started thinking about it, but hopefully it might hit home for you. Have you ever had one of those days where on paper, it wasn't even that intense, you weren't running around all day, you got a good night's sleep, nothing major went wrong, but by the time evening rolls around, you are just drained. Your tank's on empty and there's no obvious reason. Now that could look like if you're a parent, maybe you kept the household afloat, you helped kids with homework, you showed up to your family, you're sitting on the couch, but you're feeling invisible. You're doing everything, but nothing actually feels like you. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur who you checked off all the boxes for the day, right? You answered your emails, you led your team, you moved the business forward, but the passion that fueled you, it feels really quiet now, you're coasting and not creating anything impactful. Or maybe you're just showing up to your job, meeting expectations, doing everything right, and you're still driving home with that gut feeling is this it? Is this really all there is to this? Now if that sounds familiar, then this video is for you, because we're talking about this thing that people don't always name that I mentioned earlier. Most of us will feel it though. It's this hidden cost of staying small. Now this isn't about burnout from too much on your plate. This is the slow and more silent drain that comes from you not using your gifts and your superpowers, not honoring your values, and not living as you should. You're living just slightly off from who you actually are. It's called this misalignment fatigue, and it's what's happening when you spend your day and you go day after day doing things that just don't match with who it is that you're becoming. And so that's what we're going to dive into. And my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It came out in November. It is ever since it's been an Amazon bestseller. It keeps showing up on those bestseller lists. It has tons of 5-star reviews. Thousands of people have purchased it. So everything we're going to cover today is going to be grounded in principles from this book. Now, there's so many other things in here that I highly recommend that if you're a parent, an entrepreneur, you're an employee working away, this was going to have massive impact for you in helping you to, take gifts and develop them into superpowers, create more influence and impact in your life, more value for the people around you, have deeper, more meaningful relationships, live a more fulfilled life, all these sorts of things. It's the best $10 you can invest in yourself. It will change your life. Everyone who's gone through it, the stories just keep coming in of the transformation it's taking them through. So I highly recommend you go grab a copy for yourself so that way you can start your way down that path. I'll put a link in the description to the Amazon checkout so you can go get yourself a copy of that. Now, as I worked on the book, as I've coached people, I've watched so many parents and entrepreneurs and employees try to fix the problem by working harder or taking more breaks. They've tried all these different things, and what they're actually needing to do is just start living more aligned with who they are. And so in this video, I want to unpack why you're tired, why you're feeling more tired than you should be, and more importantly, how to get that energy back in ways that actually last, not by doing less, but by doing things different. Okay, and by living from the inside out, not the outside in, because I promise you that energy isn't your energy. It's not gone. It's not depleted. It's just buried underneath the roles that you've been playing and the obligations that you've been carrying and the gifts that you've been waiting to give. Now, before we dive into this, of course, if you find this valuable, please like the video. If you're new here, hit subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I don't want you to miss out on any of the content we have around these topics that could really change your life. And we really do release videos, multiple of these 20-30 minute videos every single week. And so I want you to be able to have access to those as quickly as possible, help you discover your gifts and create more of an impact in the way that only you can make. Now, at the same time, down in the description, I'll put links to where you find us on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, or thegivermethod.com, where it has all the different pieces of how we can serve you and such. Now, at the same time, if you're hey, I've got a podcast, a platform, a stage, a community that maybe needs to hear this message, then there's a spot, same thing in the description, where we can connect. I'd love to talk about what that could look like and how we could provide more value to your network and your audience. Cool? So let's talk about, let's bring it back to where we need to be. Let's talk about how we can, you were once aligned with your choice at one time, and how do we get back to that so that you're living more authentically and with more of who you are. Cool? So we're gonna dive into these principles. Each one's gonna have some detail. It's also gonna have some action items. So I recommend maybe you grab a piece of paper, open up a note, jot down your thoughts along the way. You can also leave comments along the way, because I love to see those and respond to them as we go. So the first principle is, I call it just this authentic energy audit. I'm all about auditing and reviewing and reflecting on who you are. So this is like, you're checking your charge. Like, how well are you doing? And so as we kick this off with, people never think to track this, but it's one of the biggest reasons that you're tired all the time. And so as you're checking this charge, like you're checking the charge of a battery or check of how much charge your phone is, like, it's not about your to-do list or your calendar. It's about figuring out what's quietly charging your energy and what's draining the life out of you. And here's the biggest part of this, like, you can be super productive and still feel like you're slowly losing yourself. You might even be doing things that you're really good at, but they just don't align with who you are in the way that you're wired, and they just leave you drained. And so that's where this check-in changes everything for you. It's not about what you get done. It's about how those things made you feel in your gut as you did them. Did they make you feel more like yourself or less like yourself? And so here's what you want to do. Here's what you want to try. For 1 week, just take and keep like an energy tracker, an energy audit. Nothing fancy, where you just take a few seconds, after you've done a major task or a conversation or some sort of a commitment, and you jot down a few things like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how energized or depleted do I feel? Did that activity make me feel more like me or less like me? Or, was I just going through the motions in some way? And then, move on. Don't overanalyze it. Don't overthink it. Don't try to fix anything. Just gather the data for yourself, this energy data over time. And by the end of the week, you're going to start seeing these patterns. Maybe morning workout leaves you, recharged, but your team meetings drain you. Even like when you're running them really, really well, maybe tucking in your kids fills you up, but that 4 p.m. like homework battle depletes you. Even like within the same role of being a parent, an entrepreneur, an employee, whatever it is, some things restore your identity and your energy, and others slowly chip away at them. And this isn't about what looks important, it's about what feels aligned with you. If you don't know what's fueling you and or what's draining you, you're going to keep making choices based off of these, like the shoulds, what should be energizing. But your energy doesn't lie. It tells you the truth about your alignment. And when you start making these choices based on, the decisions based on what actually charges you, not just checking off the boxes, like you'll stop running on fumes, and you're going to start designing the day around your gifts, and not feel guilty about it in any way. And so that's the first step towards breaking this invisible cycle of burnout. Before, you can realign your life, you have to know, like, well, great, what charges me and what doesn't, and make sure that you can, start to approach those, especially as we get into these other principles. Because the second one is like, there's this idea of like the proper name I call it is like the permission identity protection system. So like, it's really the like, cool, well, let's patch the leaks and then let's protect the real you. Like, how do we patch it and protect it? Something that is like one of the sneakiest ways that we end up just wiped out without knowing why is that, you're doing everything, you're showing up to work, all the things, run the family, being helpful, dependable, and on the outside, like people might just assume like everything looks fine, but inside it's that slow drain. Things are just pulling it out of you from the outside, like you're getting dimmer, even though nothing major is wrong. And so that's this idea of the identity leak. When you do little compromises that just stack up and chip away at who you really are. Most people don't even notice it's happening until they look one day and they feel totally disconnected from their gifts, their purpose, and their personality. I remember the day I woke up, I was in that sea of cubicles within a corporate environment, looking around, hearing the hum of those lights, and I just seriously like sat there and thought, like, I don't belong here. This is not who I am. And so here's how this happens. Like, you say yes to one more thing that you don't believe in. You keep quiet in the meeting even though you had something to say. You parent in a way that looks correct, but it doesn't feel like you. And over time, these moments add up and they bleed you dry, not physically, but energetically. So what you first want to do is start super simple, with an end-of-day practice. This is like a daily identity check-in where you just take a few minutes at night in a journal, in a notepad, whatever, and you jot down a couple of thoughts, a couple of questions to think through. Like, number one, like, where did I act in a way that didn't feel like me today? What did I agree to that pulled me further away from who I want to be? And was I expressing my real self or just trying to keep up, like, just keep the peace? And then don't beat yourself up about this. Like, it's not about being perfect in any way. It's just about, like, the awareness is one of the biggest pieces. Like, just notice the places where energy is being leaked a little at a time. Your identity is leaking out a little at a time. That awareness alone changes how you can show up tomorrow. And then you give yourself, like, you're going to give yourself a permission letter. Literally write out a letter to yourself, like, I give myself permission to That's the first sentence, by the way. And then whatever you've been quietly craving, but you've been too polite, too scared, too grateful to say it out loud. Like, I give myself permission to want something different, even if other people think like, what I have should be enough. Or I give myself permission to want to have more meaning, even if others don't quite get it. I give myself permission to stop pretending that things are fine. Is that fine is good enough. I want to do more. And then read it back to yourself when the guilt starts creeping in. And then create it should be a short list of your biggest identity leaks, the places where you're most likely to say yes when you really mean no. And then next to each one, what's your permission mantra? What's the simple phrase that you can say when that starts to show up? Hey, my authenticity helps everyone around me. Gratitude and growth can coexist. Living small doesn't protect me anymore. Whatever that thing is, and the next time that you feel that tension, that urge to shrink, stay silent, or even overperform, use the mantra like a shield and give yourself permission to stay rooted in who you really are, even if maybe it's a little uncomfortable at times. The truth is that when you can't get aligned if you keep leaking out pieces of yourself just to keep the peace. And you won't take the action you need on that spark of a desire if guilt keeps telling you it's selfish to want more or to do more. This is all about helping to prevent that slow fade. It helps protect your real self from erosion while giving you the green light to actually pursue life as it feels right to you. Because the world doesn't need you to perform. It needs you present fully and authentically as yourself, energetically in that way. And it starts by just plugging some of these leaks and giving yourself permission to do what you want to do as a part of that. Now, our third one is this, there's your action recalibration. So you want to make this, how do you make this work for you without starting over? So this one's for everyone who's thinking hey, Jake, this all sounds great, but I can't just drop my job or walk away from my responsibilities. And you're absolutely right. I totally get that's not the point. Every action item I ever give people is with the mentality we're not burning the bridges to start over. It's nope, we're going to start where you are. You've got bills to pay. You've got kids to raise, teams that count on you. You don't get to hit a reset button just because you feel off. But here's where you shift. You don't need to start over to get back to yourself. This idea about recalibrating how you actually show up with what you're already doing, not changing the task, but just changing the energy that you're bringing to it. And so that's this action recalibration. It's taking, the life that you already have and then threading more of you into it as a part of that. Most people think that they have to have some sort of dramatic pivot to live authentically, but in reality, you can build an alignment, right where you're at right now with your existing commitments. The goal here isn't perfection. It's just what's the pockets of presence that I can have and places where I can stop hiding, stop performing, and start just bringing my real self to the surface again. And so what you want to do is you want to look at the top, maybe 3 energy drainers that you have. The ones you probably can name them off really easily. The things that, you do, but you dread every single time. It could be parenting tasks, work meetings, business to-dos, or just daily routine items. And ask yourself 3 questions where can I show up more as me? How could I approach this with my natural strengths? And what's one small shift that would make me feel more aligned with these tasks? Even if I still have to do it. What it might look like is as a parent, if you have the gift of humor, maybe it's school pickups become a storytelling session. My kids love it when I tell them these ridiculous stories about growing up. If you're a team lead who thrives on empathy, then maybe it's weekly check-ins with become those moments of real connection, not just status updates with people. If you're a creative entrepreneur stuck with admin work, maybe you infuse some flow by redesigning your workspace or batching tasks, in a way that just aligns with you. These are your authenticity anchors. They're small, repeatable ways that you can bring your real self to roles that you can't walk away from. Start practicing it. You could do them, a couple of them every single week, and don't overthink it. Don't pressure yourself or anything. Just try one small shift per role, and then watch what happens to your energy as a part of that. You're going to notice that you're a little more present, a little less irritated, and maybe even enjoying pieces of your day that you used to dread. That's not luck. It's just alignment to, aligning yourself to the thing and aligning that to your values. And this is a game changer for a lot of people because you don't have to wait for perfect timing. You're not putting an authentic life on hold until you figure it all out. You're creating this alignment right now in life as it is. And so like it reminds you that you don't need to escape your life to feel more like yourself. You know, when you start doing this, like even in the smallest ways, you chip away at that misalignment fatigue and you rebuild your confidence and start living like someone who's not stuck, just recalibrating as they go. Now we're about halfway through, so I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Feel free to share any ideas, takeaways, things that have jumped out to you in the comments. You know, some of you may have already jumped over and grabbed your copy of the Giver Method. Great if you have. If not, there's still time. I'll bring it up again later. As we move to the fourth one, though, of course. So how do we align our actions with our values? Like, how do we create a system that we can do that? You know, we want to live what you actually say matters to you, because, you know, this is sometimes uncomfortable for people, but it is important to understand. Like, have you ever said something like, man, my family is everything. Creativity fuels me. Like, I value honesty. But then when you look at your week and you realize like your actual calendar tells a completely different story, like that's not because you're a hypocrite. It's because life gets loud. And in the noise, our values, the stuff that we say matters most, can get buried by the responsibilities and pressure and old patterns that we stopped questioning. So this is about closing that gap. You know, live with what you say matters is what it is, because that's where the energy lives too. So when your daily actions align with your actual values, it's like you're taking you're taking the emotional brakes off. You don't have to keep dragging yourself through the day anymore. Like the internal tension lifts you. Your decisions are just fueled with more clarity and your energy flows. And so let's talk about how you can do that. You know, let's make it really simple even. Start by just naming like what are the top 5 values you have. If you need help with this, like ChatGPT can help you a ton with this. You know, and think about it this way. It's not what sounds good. It's not what you think you should have. Like I'm talking about the stuff that, you know, when you honor it, you feel like the real you. Maybe it's connection or growth or freedom or faith or humor or contribution, you know, or whatever it is. Like just get honest with what do you actually care about. And then next, take a look through your week. You know, nothing fancy, just skim through your schedule, your to-dos, your routines, and ask asking yourself, like, how am I spending my time reflecting those top values? Like, where are you living the most aligned and where are you not? And you're probably going to find some things that make you go like, yep, that fits me, that's me. But you're also going to probably find things that you're pouring time and energy into that doesn't really matter with who it is that you are or want to be. And that's okay. We all have those. This isn't about guilt. It's just about an awareness. And then you can start to shift that, where you build these value filters into your decision making. Like, so before you say yes to something, it's like, well, does this honor the values I have and that I'm creating? Like, or is just another obligation? You know, is this yes going to get me closer to the life I want or further away? Can I approach this in a way that reflects who I actually am? Again, you don't have to overhaul your life. You just make it one more aligned choice decision at a time, and that starts to build the momentum for you. It's like a reset button for your nervous system. Like, and seriously, like there is research out there that shows that when you act like out of an alignment with your core values, it creates like this mental conflict where, you know, that wears us down. It breaks through all of that. When you're in this active alignment, that's when you get that weird, amazing feeling of working hard and still feeling energized at the end of the day. Not because life got easier, but because it got real. You stop spending your energy, you know, trying to justify decisions that don't feel right. You stop overthinking every opportunity and you just start moving forward to who it is that you're meant to be. That's how we build life that feels like it fits us, not by waiting for permission, but by choosing again and again to live with what matters. So that takes us to the 5th one, which is this natural gift integration. So the Giver Method, the G in Giver stands for gifts, which you develop to be superpowers. You know, you don't just have these gifts. You have them. They're inside of you, whether you like it or not. Multiple of them, in fact. But are you using them? Because if we get honest for a second, like you probably already know some things that you're good at. You've got a pretty clear sense of like maybe some strengths you have, whether it's encouraging others, organization, you know, solving tough problems, making people laugh, helping others grow, or just a sense of what someone needs in a tough moment. But the thing is like knowing your gifts isn't the same as living from them. And most people, they are waiting for their gifts, like waiting to use their gifts until like the stars are aligned, until there's more time or someone asks or things just feel easier. And in the meantime, these gifts, like they just sit on the shelves like tools that are never getting used, tools that actually are designed to help you energize your day. And so this is about getting those gifts off the shelf back into the rhythm of daily life, because the real magic happens when those strengths aren't just something that you pull out in a situation that demands it, but when it flows naturally with who you are. And so once again, let's keep that simple. So start by just naming the 2 to 3 gifts that you have, not your job title, not your role, actual energizing strengths that you have. What do people thank you for? What do you lose track of time doing? What do you feel like just natural and meaningful when you're in the middle of it? And then once you have those, ask yourself, like, well, where can I use these in life that I don't already use them? Like, don't wait to launch this new project or a career change. Like, look for the pockets of your day where your gifts could just sneak in and come alive. Maybe you've got the gift of encouraging people. Well, great. Send a text to someone to remind them of their worth. Like, that's this gift expression. Like, you could be doing 30 of those in a month if you did it every day. You're doing like you're doing it while you're standing in line, while you're sitting at lunch, while you're waiting for coffee to brew, while you're waiting for the kids to come out. Like, whatever it is, maybe your natural teacher will use the morning, like commute or bedtime story to pass on lessons of what you've learned. If you're a connector, schedule coffee catch-ups, make an intro to, in something that you've been thinking about. And then that's when you got to make it stick. So what are those gift triggers that you can start to create for yourself that are the cues to remind yourself to, how do I express myself more using my strengths, my gifts, and superpowers? Every time you make lunch, you send a message, whatever it is, before a meeting, you remind yourself, to ask the meaningful questions, to dive deeper. After dinner, you share small insights with your kid or your partner. At the end of each week, if you look at it, you're like, well, where did I use my gifts this week? How did I feel afterward? You're going to start to notice how powerful it is that these little small expressions, not only did they energize you, but they reshape how people experience you too. Because this is where your alignment becomes very real. When you start using gifts every single day on purpose, in the life that you're already living, you don't just feel more like yourself. You start becoming that version of who you were always meant to be. You stop looking for your purpose like it's something that you're supposed to go find, and just start living with the simple actions that are going to create this energy for you. It's going to build confidence. It's going to help you to connect with what matters. This is how natural gifts become superpowers, not from the being on a stage or having the spotlight, but from just showing up as the real you in the ordinary moments of everyday life. Those are where the superpowers. The superheroes in life are the people who show up authentically as themselves every single day, and they bring their powers, their gifts to every interaction that they can and try to deliver more. That authenticity you can't make up. That's where superheroes are. That's where superpowers come into play. And so that leads us to the 6th thing, which is okay, well, there's got to be this energy restoration, and how do we design, how do we blueprint it, restore a way that actually restores you? But when we talk about rest, and if we want to talk about it for just a brief second, not that you need to sleep more, scroll less, take a bath of, kind of rest, but what I mean is a restoration that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel like yourself again. Because the hard truth is most people don't realize that until they don't realize this until they're totally burnt out. If your life feels misaligned, you can't recover by doing less of what drains you. You can only recover by doing more of what lights you up. And so this is not about just slowing down. It's about reconnecting. It's about resting your body, but also restoring the energy, the kind that comes from expressing your gifts, from honoring those values, and doing the things that actually fill your tank, not just check that box off for you. And so here's where you want to start to make things really brutally honest. Just start making that brutally honest list for yourself. What are the things that actually restore me? What are the things that I think, should restore me, but don't, with no judgment, just truth. And then, maybe you thought about, maybe you thought binge watching Netflix was restorative, but afterwards you feel numb. Maybe scrolling social media feels like a break, but it leaves you anxious. That's not restoration, that's distraction. Meanwhile, maybe just teaching your kids something new, or a solo walk in nature, or journaling with a good playlist, that actually gives you energy. Those are the type of rest we're talking about. That's the type of rest you want on this sort of a list. And then once you know what those things are, schedule authenticity time with yourself, blocks of time in your week that you do at least one thing off of that list throughout the week. These aren't rewards for productivity in any way. They are actual fuel sources. And you don't need the whole weekend. Start with little bits of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20, 30 minutes, just something that reminds you of who you are underneath all the noise. And don't assume it has to be quiet or slow. Restoration looks different for everyone. It could, for some, it's quiet solitude. For others, it's connecting deeply. For some, it's movement and challenge and creativity. And some, it's loud music. whatever matters. What matters the most here is that it feel like how you feel after, not during. If it's leaving you more grounded, more like yourself, more capable of facing life, then you've probably found a really good restorative rhythm. Because rest doesn't, it's not just about recovering from doing too much. It is healing from being someone that you're not. And energy restoration, when it helps you to break that cycle of the generic self-care that doesn't work. It reconnects you with what actually restores your spirit. And when you start living with regular touch points of authenticity, you don't just recover, you renew. You come back stronger, clearer, and more committed. And you can keep that going, because this is how you turn that fatigue into fuel. This is how you go and have more authentic energy that starts coming back, not someday, but right now. So think about it. You're not tired. You're ready. If I leave you with nothing else, if you've been feeling tired, but it's not but that I need to take a nap kind of way, more like that bone deep soul level fatigue, where it's rest doesn't even seem to help. Well, there's a good chance that it's not because you're doing too much. It's because you're just doing too much of what you're not aligned with. And that exhaustion doesn't come from overwork. It's just from underexpression. The people that live the most energetic lives, the people who don't get that burnout, are the people that show up authentically to give their superpowers, give of themselves. And those are them. You show up every day as a version of you that keeps the peace and the deadlines and plays a part. That's not showing up with who you actually feel like you are. But what you need to know is something that, it took me a long time to believe myself, is I don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to start choosing something differently that's more aligned, a little more honest, a little more you, a little bit at a time. And so start with whatever the principles we talked about today. Pick any one of them. It could be anything that you want, because once you start, even just a little bit, it snowballs. That authentic actions that you have, it restores the energy. Energy makes the space feel better. It makes you have space for better decisions, and those decisions shifts your life in something that feels way more like yours. Now, if you want to dive deeper into this concept, then that's where I would love, once again, for you to go grab yourself a copy of The Giver Method. I'll put the link in the description. Go get yourself, like I said, it is the best $10 you can invest yourself in. It is packed full of tons of exercises and different things that you can do. They're going to benefit you. It dives so much deeper, and it's packed with stories and tools and these strategies to help you to rediscover and develop these gifts and superpowers in a way that energizes you, is sustainable, and deeply aligned with who you are. And once again, if you lead a community, you host a podcast, run a business, have a stage, whatever it is that brings this kind, you want to bring this kind of conversation to your people, then check out the links in the description, book a call with me so we can talk about how we can bring this message to your audience in a way that creates real connection, real value, and real impact. Because you were meant for more. You weren't meant to live small in any ways. You were meant to live so much more, to give something to the world. And you're the only person who can give it, because you're the only person with your set of gifts, superpowers, and experiences that can deliver it that way. And the more that you live like that, the more energy with purpose and the more fulfillment you're going to find. And as you get back to who it is that you are, your energy is not gone. It's just waiting for you to come home. Now, please, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment with what your thoughts have been or what stood out to you. I'd love to hear those things. And ring the bell, of course, after you subscribe, so we can make sure we show up. Check us out, givermethod.com, or on social media. With that, today is the day to get started. Everyone is waiting for you to realize you're ready to be more authentically you and show up in that way. The universe will pay you back when you do so. I promise you that. And so with that, I will just simply say, have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in our next video.